We live in a different era right now. In the 90s, the players didn't speak this much.
That's what Stephen A was talking about today.
2000s,
did you watch that?
I did not. Go on.
Oh shit.
Speak on it.
Well, Stephen A, he kind of like he went through this whole thing, talking about what's the guy from the Celtics, the head coach of the Celtics, basically he stepped down, but then kind of like failed up in general manager.
Brad
position.
Stevens, he is
White
no
dude.
longer the coach of the Celtics, but he is now the general manager after Danny Ainge retired.
Okay, so Stephen A pointed out the despair, like the lack of head coaches that are African American.
Yeah.
And basically that there weren't, so you see people like, I forget which, like Nash gotten support by a handful of players that were on his team that were black.
Yeah.
But they're not supporting black assistant coaches that are helping him in the offseason to help them get their. So why is it that they're not speaking? So basically just kind of went on this whole thing and just like walked the fuck off because it was both like a part of like, why isn't the NFL or NBA doing like supporting these African American head coaches, but why more importantly the players collectively not making sure this happens? Mm-hmm. That
No, I understand what you're saying. That's a really good point. I believe the NFL has this thing called I think it's called the Rooney Rule. Can you look that up?
Yeah, the Rooney.
Yeah,
they
rule.
talked about that. I thought it was the Rooney.
Rooney, Rooney.
Anyway.
I believe that's the name of the rule. And that's where if you're doing a coach search, you have to interview at least one black person, I believe is the rule.
But you have to put their metric above. You have to say what you're going to hire for and what they
well, if you're high, well, what does it say?
All right.
Can you read it on? Well, while you're doing
clubs,
that.
Okay, clubs must interview at least one diverse candidate from the career development for advisory panel list or diverse candidate not currently employed by the club. Clubs must continue to the best practice representations consider multiple diverse candidates. Clubs must maintain complete records and furnish the league upon the committee's request. And final decision maker involved from the beginning. He or she must be involved throughout the conclusion process. It doesn't seem like they have to actually say like what they're doing, like with the reasons for it, or any kind of metric for what this person was better than that person, or any of that shit. It just says have to have somebody that's a minority, whether it's a man
right,
or
and
a
it
woman,
doesn't say
or
that
like
they
a
have
minority.
to hire them, and just
Nah,
says
you just gotta have them like in the lineup. They're there.
Right.
They're around. They're good. They were there. Okay, so we didn't.
I think that the thing about coaches is that a lot of the coaches that are head coaches were at one time assistant coaches or a part of someone's staff. Mm-hmm. And then as jobs become available, the field is mined for each job. But there are a lot of coaches that are tenured for many, many years. Other teams will have a high turnover of coaches because they lose all the time. So you look at someone like the Spurs. Greg Popovich has been there since the early 90s. He was an assistant, and then he became a head coach of the Spurs. And then you'll look at someone like Tom Thibodeau. He was a defensive coordinator and an assistant coach for Doc Rivers on the Celtics in like the late 2000s, and then he became a head coach.
Okay.
So what we're seeing right now is because there was nothing but white dudes on people's coaching staffs, there are a ton of white dudes as coaches. Now, with Steve Nash specifically, he never worked as on somebody's staff.
This is what Stephen A. pointed out.
And so that's why it's like especially odd.
I would just wonder if it's a double whammy though.
But I think that the reason why Steve Nash specifically is a coach is because on a team like the Nets, they needed somebody that could garner the respect of players like Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant specifically?
I think that's what the players chose. Like
He pointed that out.
there's a couple there's some YouTube videos of KD working with Nash. And I don't even
Nash
think
worked with the Warriors as a consultant, not part of the staff, as a consultant. Go on.
and I know that's probably not the only time KD has worked with Nash or Nash has trained him, cuz there's got to be off camera training with Nash is training KD. So I just think they had that relationship, and I think KD had a say on who the coach was, and he talked it over
I think
with other
KD was
players.
the end all be all.
Yeah, that's what I think. But that's just my opinion.
I think they wanted to keep KD happy, and the way that you keep KD happy is by picking the coach that he wants, the same way that you do with LeBron. I think LeBron picks coaches.
The same way you do with LeBron, because he's up there too.
Well, you also picked AD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like
I think so. So that in this diversity discussion,